Man, I don't think it was beef, man. I just think it was more of like, and I said this when Shedeur went there. What Kevin Stefanski, the quarterback development in Cleveland just wasn't there.
Mhm.
And I felt that way about Shedeur as well. Like
maybe you can win enough or win more with a bottom 5 quarterback situation. And now it's really difficult to do that. I think you're hoping it's either Shedeur or Shedeur makes an improvement, or Deshaun Watson shows more of the form that he was before he got here, right? I mean, those are the...
Something about the Shedeur Sanders situation last season never fully made sense, and now a former Cleveland Browns player is finally pulling the curtain back just a little. Not with some explosive headline confession, not with a full-blown expose, but with enough detail to make you stop and rethink everything you thought you knew. Because when someone who's actually been inside that locker room starts talking, even carefully, it hits differently. And suddenly, this isn't just about performance anymore. It's about context, expectations, and what really goes on behind closed doors. So here's what's coming out. According to the former player, the biggest issue wasn't talent, because by all accounts, Shedeur had that. Arm strength, accuracy, confidence, leadership traits, all there. The real issue was timing and environment. He stepped into a situation that was already unstable. Coaching adjustments, offensive identity questions, and a quarterback room that didn't have a clearly defined hierarchy. And when you put a young quarterback into that kind of setup, things can get messy fast.
That they can get that out of Todd Monken, and he can, acquit himself. Because I think that we all know, and I think the Browns know internally, that, their best shot to kind of get out from under this Watson contract and to really get into relevancy and contention is having a guy like Shedeur Sanders, establish himself as a starting quarterback on a rookie contract so they can build out the rest of the roster.
Here's the part nobody is talking about. Young quarterbacks don't fail in isolation. They fail in systems. When a team doesn't have a clear plan, when the play calling isn't consistent, when protection breaks down, when expectations shift week to week, it creates confusion. And confusion is the worst thing you can give a developing quarterback. Instead of playing fast and trusting their instincts, they start overthinking. Hesitation creeps in. And at the NFL level, hesitation kills drives. The former Browns player also hinted at something even more interesting. The pressure around Shedeur wasn't just internal, it was external too. Media hype, fan expectations, comparisons, and constant scrutiny. Every throw was being analyzed, every mistake amplified. And while that comes with the territory, not every situation is built to handle that kind of spotlight. Some teams have the structure to protect young players from it, others don't.
Mekhi Lemon kills in a lot of advanced metrics compared to Jordan Tyson, compared to Carnell Tate. What would he add to this team? He would get open quick. Short to intermediate, you can move him around. Early declare, young wide receiver, sticky hands. He would fit this team good. I like Tate for how he fits with Shedeur.
This is where it gets dangerous, because once a narrative starts forming, it's hard to stop. A couple of bad games turn into he's struggling, then into he's not ready, and eventually into maybe he's not a guy. And the problem is, that narrative can take hold before a player even gets a fair chance to develop. That's how careers get shaped early, for better or worse. Now let's talk about the locker room dynamic, because this is where things get even more real. The former player suggested there were moments where the offense didn't fully feel in sync. Not necessarily conflict, but a lack of cohesion. And that matters more than people think. A quarterback needs to feel like the entire unit is moving together. Same rhythm, same understanding, same belief. When that's off, even slightly, it shows up on the field.
Why the hell would you draft Dylan Gabriel in the top 100? Why? Because he fits what you're doing, and you're drafting him because you're not drafting the best quarterback. You're drafting the quarterback that you don't have to develop as much to fit your scheme.
This is where young players usually make a mistake. They try to do too much when things aren't working. Instead of trusting the system, they start forcing plays, trying to prove themselves on every snap. And that's when mistakes pile up. Instead of steady growth, you get inconsistency. Instead of confidence, you get frustration. And if you zoom out for a second, this isn't just an NFL thing. You see the same pattern in the NBA all the time. A young player enters the league with huge expectations, lands in a shaky situation, and suddenly struggles. But put that same player in a stable system, and everything changes. Think about how LeBron James elevates young talent by simplifying the game for them, or how structured teams like the San Antonio Spurs have historically developed players by giving them clear roles and consistency. Situation matters just as much as skill.
I would say a lot of head coaches don't realize, especially guys that just want to run things buy themselves their way no matter what, and they just put people in position that's just going to run with whatever it is they say. You got to have somebody at every position that you hire that can actually develop their talent.
Back to Shedeur, because this is where the narrative starts to shift. The former Browns player didn't say Shedeur was perfect. Far from it. There were mistakes, missed reads, timing issues, moments where the game sped up on him. But the key takeaway was that those mistakes were amplified by everything around him. It wasn't just a player struggling. It was a system that wasn't fully supporting him. Here's the part nobody is talking about. Development isn't linear. Fans expect instant results, especially with high-profile players. But the reality is, most quarterbacks take time. They need reps, stability, and a system that builds around them instead of constantly changing. And if they don't get that, even talented players can look average. This is where it gets dangerous, because now the question becomes, what happens next? Does the team adjust, build a better structure, and give Shedeur a real chance to grow? Or do they move on too quickly, chasing a short-term fix instead of investing in long-term development? Because that decision doesn't just affect one player, it affects the entire direction of the franchise. And let's not ignore the mental side of this. Confidence for a quarterback is everything. Once it starts to crack, it can take time to rebuild. And if a player feels like the organization isn't fully behind them, that process becomes even harder. That's why situations like this are so delicate. One wrong move, one rushed decision, and you could be setting a player back years. This is where young players usually make a mistake. They let outside noise get into their heads. Social media, analysts, fans, it all adds up. But the players who make it through situations like this are the ones who block that out and focus on growth. And from what we've seen, Shedeur has that kind of mindset. The question is whether the environment around him will allow it to show. Now let's connect this to the bigger picture. This isn't just about Shedeur Sanders. It's about how teams handle young quarterbacks in general. The NFL is full of examples. Players who were written off too early, only to succeed elsewhere, and players who never recovered from a bad start. It's a reminder that talent alone isn't enough. You need the right situation, the right support, and the right timing. And that's why this former Browns player speaking out matters. It adds context to a story that was starting to feel one-sided. It reminds us that there's always more going on than what we see on Sundays, and it challenges the narrative that everything comes down to the player. So now the debate really begins. Was last season a fair evaluation of Shedeur Sanders? Or was it a situation that set him up to struggle from the start? Because depending on how you answer that, your expectations for his future change completely. And here's the thing, this next phase is going to define everything. If Shedeur gets into a more stable system and starts performing, the narrative flips overnight. Suddenly, he's not a question mark, he's a rising star. But if the struggles continue, then those early doubts start to feel more permanent. So I'll leave you with this. When a young quarterback struggles, do you blame the player or the system around him? Because in Shedeur Sanders' case, that answer might decide his entire career trajectory.